One of the things I was trying to describe in my methodological expose of the way that we develop thematics, which in a way one could also call zeitgeists. I mean, I'm a bit allergic to the term because it's overused within art, and it was particularly overused by certain not to be named art historians in the 1980s. But I think it's really important to get people thinking transversally about how their, in a way that you were just talking about, how their very specific scholarly thoughts, I mean, it might be, a complete, immersion, this is not very normal in the art department, a complete immersion in Deleuze and Guattari, for instance. You have to pull people out of that and say, okay, this is great stuff, but how does it relate to, what's going on in state schooling, for instance, or how's it related to the environmental crisis? And that's what we do thematically. I think by developing these themes, and also by making these events public, so that people can walk off the street. I mean, let's face it, there's not a huge amount of the public that come. I mean, they do if we got a very famous name, so they all turned up for Alfonso Lingis. But it's good to have that porosity, and I know different institutions have different regulations around that. We're lucky at Goldsmiths, we are quite a public and open campus. But I think the important thing is that we understand our scholars to be in the world already. So we don't think of them as people that have suddenly become academic scholars that are going to spend all their time in libraries. Because A, you don't, and B, particularly in the arts, I'm not so sure about the humanities, but my colleagues can answer for that, but in art, and particularly contemporary art, whether it be sound art, whether it be contemporary music, visual art, these people are performing in the evenings and coming to seminars in the mornings. They are also have families and sending their kids to the local school, because that's what's fantastic about working with PhD students. They're older and they have life experience in the same way that we do. So they are in between these two zones. They're already there. So in a sense, I think for me, it's less to do with training them to be out there, although I do recognise these techniques you've talked about, having been, radio 3'd myself, and how it's bloody frightening, actually. But I do recognise, but I think it's more to do with recognising the intelligence of that relationality between the inside and the outside that our scholars bring to us anyway, and working with it, It's probably easier within the arts because we spend our time going to openings and galleries and going to biennales where they are and all these kind of things, or film festivals. I think we in a way we have a kind of porosity embedded in the structure of practice-based research. So I think in a way that would be my answer.
Just to agree that I do think there are some subject differences, but yes. The key thing is it's not really about training, it's about finding the time to have a set of playful, if you like, discussions that just say, oh, well, what if I wanted to apply what I know to this, or what's an interesting thing that we could do? So what I found in teaching the cohort we've already taught, or engaging with them, I didn't really feel I was teaching them, was just that they moved from a position of being in a very structured intellectual environment where they were progressing in a certain way and being trained to kind of thinking, well, actually, I want to do this, so how could I do that? The idea, they were it took them a while to get to grips with the idea. To give you an example, we had a Radio 2 producer who came in and talked to us, and they were saying, well, so how do we get something commissioned on Radio 2? You say, well, just get in touch. If you've got an idea, just knock it up and send it to us. And they were like, oh, okay, so that kind of sense of agency, that if you have something you want to do, just do it. The worst that'll happen is no one will notice, or, well, actually, the worst that can happen is an independent production company will steal your idea.